Hi boys and girls, today I'm going to be reading you one of our humanities read-alouds. This is the book, it's called Grandfather's Journey by Alan Say. While you're listening, I want you to think about the purpose for our reading today. The purpose is going to be that we learn about who we are from our ancestors, which is our family members from the past, and oral storytelling, so storytelling out loud, can play an important role in understanding who we are and where we came from. So think while we're reading, has anyone in your family that's older than you, your parents, maybe your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, have they ever told you a story about your family from the past, where your family's from, how your family ended up living where they live now? That would be an oral storytelling, so a story that you tell out loud to someone. Those play an important role when we think about how we learn information about our ancestors from the past. My grandfather was a young man when he left his home in Japan and went to see the world. He wore European clothes for the first time and began his journey on a steamship. The Pacific Ocean astonished him. For 3 weeks, he did not see land. When land finally appeared, it was the New World. He explored North America by train and riverboat and often walked for days on end. Deserts with rocks like enormous sculptures amazed him. The endless farm fields reminded him of the ocean he had crossed. Huge cities of factories and tall buildings bewildered and yet excited him. He marveled at the towering mountains and rivers as clear as the sky. He met many people along the way. He shook hands with black men and white men, with yellow men and red men. The more he traveled, the more he longed to see new places and never thought of returning home. At this point, how do you think Grandfather's feeling? And what are his emotions on getting to the United States? Is it going to be different? Is it the same? Is North America similar or different from where he came from? Of all the places he visited, he liked California the best. He loved the strong sunlight there, the Sierra Mountains, the lonely seacoast. After a time, he returned to his village in Japan to marry his childhood sweetheart. Then he brought his bride to the new country. They made their home by the San Francisco Bay and had a baby girl. As his daughter grew, my grandfather began to think about his own childhood. He thought about his old friends. He remembered the mountains and rivers of his home. He surrounded himself with songbirds, but he could not forget. Finally, when his daughter was nearly grown, he could wait no more. He took his family and returned to his homeland. Why do you think Grandfather went back to Japan? Once again, he saw the mountains and rivers of his childhood. They were just as he had remembered them. Once again, he exchanged stories and laughed with his old friends. But the village was not a place for a daughter from San Francisco, so my grandfather bought a house in a large city nearby. There, the young woman fell in love, married, and sometime later, I was born. When I was a small boy, my favorite weekend was a visit to my grandfather's house. He told me many stories about California. He raised warblers and silver rays, but he could not forget the mountains and rivers of California. So he planned a trip. But a war began. Bombs fell from the sky and scattered our lives like leaves in a storm. When the war ended, there was nothing left of the city and of the house where my grandparents had lived. So they returned to the village where they had been children, but my grandfather never kept another songbird. The last time I saw him, my grandfather said that he longed to see California one more time. He never did. What are you thinking about grandfather's feelings here before he had this happen to California? Do you think that it's okay to love and enjoy more than one place as your home? And when I was nearly grown, I left home and went to see California for myself. After a time, I came to love the land my grandfather had loved, and I stayed on and on until I had a daughter of my own. But I also miss the mountains and rivers of my childhood. I miss my old friends, so I return now and then when I can, not the longing in my heart. The funny thing is, the moment I am in one country, I am homesick for the other. I think I know my grandfather now. I miss him very much. And in the back of the book, there's a letter, a little paragraph about Alan Say, the author. It says, Alan Say was born in Yokohama, Japan, and came to the United States when he was 16 years old. He illustrated his first children's book, published in 1972, in a photo studio between shooting assignments. Since then, he had written and illustrated many books. He lives in Portland, Oregon. So I would like you to think before you start your assignment today, what's grandfather feeling here? He has many emotions when he comes to the United States. He ends up leaving and going back to Japan where he grew up. Why did that happen? What was he feeling? If you have ever moved from one place to another or one house to another, think about how you feel. Is it okay that you love and miss more than one place to live? Is it only okay if you have one place that you call your home? Those are some thoughts that you can think about before you start your writing. Your assignment today is there's a document to type in, and what I'm asking you to do is think about one part of this story that seemed really important to you. What part do you think was important? And I want you to write about why it's important to this story and why that part of the story is important when you're thinking about how to understand a story about immigrating or moving to the United States. How did that piece of the story help you understand immigration to the United States? Another part of your assignment today is going to be to think about and talk to your families about where they originated from. So where did your family come from? I know a lot of you already have discovered this information in our classroom when we had talked about our cultural writing, and we also did our memory maps through online learning, which you guys did a wonderful job with. So most of you already know the answer to that, but if you don't, ask your family. There's also a challenge posted in the document for extra credit, and it's just a way to find out more information. So I posted a website that you can type in your last name, and it's going to give you some information about where your last name originated from. So originated means where did it come from? Where did it start? So when I typed in my last name, 2 maps came up. One came up of the United States and it said Connecticut. So people with the last name Pergano must live in Connecticut. And it also had a map and it said Spain. So some of my family still lives in Portugal. So that last name was coming up as also originating or being from Portugal as well. So that gave me some information. And I was able to connect it to stories my grandparents and family have told me that they're from Portugal. So that made sense to me. Also, the website for some last names will tell you what it means. Mine didn't come up with a meaning. Some of them might not. But it's an interesting way to learn more about your family history and about your last name. So you are also more than willing to try that. I encourage you to try it. I hope you enjoyed the story today. Please make sure in your writing assignment for this humanities book, you read the directions, you read what's expected of you. I put how many sentences you should be writing for each question. That actually is a suggestion. So if it says you should probably be writing 5 or more, then you should be writing 5 or more. That's the expectation for the question. So do your best. If you need to replay this story and hear it again, you are more than welcome to watch it as many times as you want. Have a great time. Enjoy writing about your families. You all have such wonderful families to say things about. Bye, guys.